What I've realised is you just can't compare yourself to other performers. I say that, I do it all the time, but you just have to bring what you can bring.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is the real deal. The vibes and banter were high. We had such a fun conversation. It's a great blend between seriousness and humour. Joel is super quick, light in nature, and has lived quite the extraordinary life. It's also truly incredible to see how Joel has managed to do it all in the Australian industry and at such a high level. It is inspiring and empowering to see. I wish I had more time with Joel, but nonetheless, he is great, and I haven't laughed quite like that in a long time. Okay, let's get into it. Joel Creasey is a comedian, TV and radio presenter, actor and author, becoming co-host of Australia's #1 national drive show on Nova in 2020. Joel took a huge leap into the radio world. At the 2021 ACR Awards, Joel was personally recognised with the award for Best Newcomer, and the show won Best Syndicated Australian Program and Best Networked Program. Joel has literally done it all in the Australian industry. His resume is way too long to read, so check it out in the episode notes, but here's a quick summary of all the things that he's done. He's also been a television staple on commercial networks and streaming platforms, as well as Queen of the Outback on Prime Video. Joel's stand-up special, Thirsty, for Netflix Comedians of the World, launched globally to rave reviews, and his show Fame Whore was filmed at the iconic Sydney Opera House, and it also features on Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus. Joel also joined some of Australia's top comedians on Amazon Prime's outrageous social experiment, hosted by Rebel Wilson, LOL, Last One Laughing. Joel has also been a regular in the Funniest Chair on Network 10's The Project, and hosted Eurovision for the past 8 years, and hosted Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras Parade for several years. Starting stand-up at only 15 years old, Joel has harnessed an outrageously wit, sassy, and unrivalled storytelling abilities to cement himself as Australia's undisputed Crown Prince of Comedy, and he's also one of the most sought-after and hottest comedians in the world. In the world of stand-up, Joel has had sell-out tours off Australia, the UK, Asia, and the USA, with his first solo tour at the age of 19, which is crazy, and that earned him Best Newcomer nominations at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. He also has a number of shows out now in Australia. The links are also in the episode notes. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about his love of aviation, my weird obsession, anxiety, new shows across Australia, ambition, drive and saying yes, authenticity and being yourself, fame, moving to radio, comparing, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. Shall we start with flying, or actually?
Yeah, that's my passion.
Okay, let's go there. You are, what did you say, an AV-sexual?
I'm an AV-sexual. Some people call it an aerosexual, and basically it's not like that you're sexually attracted to the plane. Hey, I don't want to yuck someone's yum if they are, but I just love aviation. I love all things planes, trains, boats.
Trains.
Cars don't do it for me,
Yep.
but everything else. And I just love. I'm lucky to fly a lot. I love aviation. I just find the whole logistics of running an airport and getting an aircraft into the air with, often up to 500 people just fascinating. And then you got 500 people up there eating, drinking, watching movies, sleeping. It's just, I don't know, I find it all very mind-blowing. I'm sure it's to, engineers, it's quite simple, but to me it's so impressive.
I love that. And there are actually people that are sexually attracted to vehicles. I used to watch a show years ago where one guy was in a relationship with his car.
We do these stories on the radio all the time. There's a lady that's, I think, married to a train station.
A train? So, wait, not a train, but a train station. There's too much going on there. Just pick one thing.
I know. And wouldn't you feel kind of like, the train station was cheating on you, taking other passengers? We also often speak about a woman that's married to a ghost.
That I feel is common. And I know, and I'm not saying I'm an advocate for it, but I feel like that's way more common than.
Oh, it's great. And then she gets in arguments with the ghost, or the ghost has done something wrong. And I'm like, is this a way of just offloading blame? Because maybe I'll marry a ghost.
Can we go back to the train station? So do you get to ask them questions? Or they?
No, this is a woman in the UK. We maybe cover her every, couple of months.
So it's a reoccurring character.
Yeah, because she's always popping up in the news on one of those websites like Lad Bible or Lad or something where we get all our content from. And
That's so good.
And thank you to those websites for saving my life every day. And no, she's very passionate about this train station, and she's deeply, deeply in love, and I'm happy for her.
Wow. I also, on this TV show, it was like My Weird Obsession. I think that's what it was called.
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
And a guy had eaten an aeroplane over the course of like a couple of years.
I think I've heard this one.
Yeah, you get to see like the little bits.
Yeah.
How does the person even eat a bolt and live? And then, or obviously a few bolts, but then
I know.
Airplane.
I know about the person that eats couches, like the stuffing of a couch. I'm like, I guess is that a lot of fiber? I don't know.
That blows my mind. Are you surprised now? You would have heard, your career is crazy and we'll get into it, but you would have heard and seen a lot of stuff. And now that you're on radio, are you numb to it, or is it still?
I'm numb to it sometimes, but they're always so crazy that you still get hooked every time. Yesterday, for example, let me see if I can retell the story properly. Titanic, one of the greatest films of all time. Yep. I feel like we've heard every story about what happened on the set of Titanic and how it was filmed, and it was done on the big water soundstage that they built. Yep. Apparently, on the last day of filming Titanic, someone laced they were having chowder for lunch on set. Okay. And someone laced the chowder with an hallucinogen. And apparently one member of the crew suddenly started asking for a priest. The director of photography was leading a conga line around set. Someone was trying to talk to James Cameron in through a walkie-talkie, but he was standing right in front of them. All this crazy stuff. That one yesterday, I was like, wow, I've never heard that Titanic story before.
That would have been a great set.
Oh, wouldn't that have been fun? Do you know is this a name drop? My friend was Leonardo DiCaprio's body double in Titanic.
That's pretty cool.
But the funny part is my friend in real life is a drag queen who their act is selling Tupperware.
That's a very good idea as well.
Great idea. Fantastic drag queen, Dixie Longate. And so Dixie was Leonardo's body double in all like the really like long camera shots. And I just think that's what a weird dichotomy there you've got. But
did they get along?
I don't know. Chris is the name is Dixie's boy name. I don't know if they ever met. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's not like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where they're like best friends with this.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they are. I know he spent a bit of time with Kate Winslet, which I'm wildly jealous of.
I feel like you've met her before.
Kate Winslet. No, I haven't.
Oh, you've met everyone. I saw you interviewed Ariana Grande recently.
Oh my God. Well, I would tell you the story about my engagement ring. It's in a car. It's been located. My car's in for a service. I left it in the cup holder of the car. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my last day alive if I've lost my engagement ring 4 months in. But yeah, my engagement ring is an emerald because I love all things Wizard of Oz and Wicked. So
nice.
I got to interview Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and they cast a spell on my ring, and there's no other way to put that.
That is what type of spell? Like an abundance spell?
Oh gosh, I hope it was. Well, maybe a curse because I've lost it. But they were so nice.
Oh, really?
And so tiny.
Ah,
Such tiny people.
she looks very different, Ariana Grande. I don't know the other lady too well.
Cynthia is. I saw Cynthia on Broadway,
Yep.
and she's one award away from an EGOT. So if she gets the Oscar, which I think she'll get for the next Wicked film, mad Wicked fan, she'll be in a company of maybe 18 others that have an EGOT. But she's a really great Broadway. She comes from that Broadway theatre scene. And then
I love that.
When Ariana Grande got cast, I was like, oh really? Eat my words. She's fantastic.
I actually haven't seen it. I know.
We've got a big TV. That is the perfect screen to be watching it on.
Look, it is big, but it's not as big as it looks. It's just given the dynamic.
It looks bougie.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it. You also you were just in a musical.
I did Rocky Horror.
Can you tell me about that? Is this your first one, or have you done something like that before?
It was my first musical. I've done
Yep.
I've done theatre. I sort of was I trained in theatre
Yep.
in Perth. Then realised there's not a whole heap of roles, particularly in Perth, for limp-wristed 14-year-old boys. So I started stand-up when I was 16.
Yep.
But yeah, Rocky Horror I was doing this time last year, and
Nice.
probably the greatest 9 weeks of my life. It was so much fun.
Is it just like, being with the cast,
There was something so nice about being with a cast, because stand-up is such a solo sport and it's so lonely.
Yep.
That said, I did go into my radio colleagues and say, oh, it's so nice to be working with the team. And they were like, what are we? I was like, oh, I mean it in a different way.
Yeah.
But it was just great. Jason Donovan was the lead. He was a complete dreamboat. The cast were so overqualified and they made me feel just incredibly welcome, and kind of getting to deliver a banger of a show that's 50 years old every night
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
My friend saw it, the one who's a dance teacher, and she said it was phenomenal.
It just holds up. It's silly. It's stupid. I couldn't even really tell you what it's about. It's about horny aliens that come down and try and do Lord knows what in this weird manor house. But that's kind of the fun of it. And people heckle from the crowd.
Is that
Heckling's
allowed?
encouraged. Yeah, big time.
I've never heard that before, but I also know nothing.
Oh, no, the crowd yell and scream at you. And for the people that are seeing it for the first time, I think they're like, what is going on? But I was playing the narrator, and my job was to sort of reassure the crowd, this is allowed and we love it.
That is a great role for you. Did you get material off that as well?
Yeah, I'll be talking about it in my new,
amazing.
in my new stand-up show, because it's given me this realization that maybe music theatre is something I want to pursue more of. I love it. And I grew up loving musicals. It's I literally flew to London once for 24 hours to see my favourite actress in my favourite niche musical about a schizophrenic mother. And I love that whole world. So
Where were you flying to? Was it London then back here? Or
London and back. And
oh, wow.
And then I played this big game to my friends that I took along to the show, being like, oh, I know it. We've met before. And we had met before, but she's obviously famous and busy. And I said to my friends before the show, like, oh, just play it cool. Like, she'll invite us back, but, she'll invite us backstage. And, we'll just, we'll be really chill about it. Nothing. Crickets. I was so embarrassed after.
Oh, that's amazing. And I want to go back to this because you have probably the most interesting career that I've ever looked at, especially in Australia.
Really?
And I'm not just saying that. I just written down, and you've done so much more. People can look at the credits, and I've said it at the start of the podcast, but not only doing stand-up, but theatre, musical theatre, radio, presenting the dog show we spoke about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, cooking show, Eurovision. Do you just say yes? Like what?
Yeah, the N and the O are broken on my keyboard. Look, it's such a fun job. It's meant to be. It's if you want to call it a job. It's so wonderful that I want to taste every little morsel. And because I started when I was 16, I've almost been doing this for 20 years. And so a lot of it was kind of working out where I fit best. Is it reality TV? Is it theatre? Is it documentaries? I've had a nibble of everything.
So what do you call yourself?
A hand model. I don't know. A slashy?
A slashy.
I say, do you know what I think is a good way to sum it up is, what do you write on your immigration form when you arrive back into Australia? I once put celebrity.
Did anyone call you out on it?
Just for a laugh. No, they were like, he's crazy, and they let me through. I put broadcaster.
Oh.
Because it's very generic and they don't really ask too many questions.
That's a very good one as well.
Yeah, broadcaster's a fun one.
Better than unemployed. And, in the Australian industry, as you know, and I'm sure it is potentially a fact, it sounds like you chase your fun and what might excite you. But in the Australian industry, very few people are able to work. I don't know anyone that's had such a broad career such as you. Is that ever a fear or an awareness, or you just chase your fun and the rest will sort itself out?
I think a lot of stand-up comics love just stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love doing stand-up comedy, but I'm not a stand-up comic that goes out on other nights to watch stand-up comedy. I'm not someone that sits at home and watches stand-up. There's a few favourites that I'll always watch if they pop up. But it's not, I don't live and breathe it. It doesn't mean I don't love it so much. And I love doing stand-up. Nice. But I like experiencing different things. Variety is the spice of life. So when I did I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, one of the other celebrities, because there's like a voice of God, like speaker box, Big Brother styling camp that you don't really see on the TV show, but it's sort of just to give us the odd direction and stuff. Otherwise, you genuinely are there camping, and which I did
awful.
not. Oh, no, I didn't realize reality TV meant real. And so one of the other celebrities complained and said, "Can you please stop calling us celebrities when we're not like on camera? Can you call us campmates?" So then I went up to the diary room, or the talkie as we called it, and I said, no. If I'm doing this show and I'm starving, hungry outside, you're calling me a celebrity. So they used to always go, campmates and celebrity Joel, can you please go to the log? Julie and Chris are about to arrive.
Oh, that's amazing. Did you have a great time doing that?
I did. It was hard. Weirdly, the hardest part is the boredom. You kind of want to get voted into those trials and stuff to pass the time. Otherwise,
it's just like sitting around.
Well, the scene, you don't move. The scenery doesn't change. Beautiful scenery, but you have no idea of the time. You're starving, hungry, and you have nothing left to say to those people. You've juiced the conversation for the first 3 days, and a lot of them aren't people that you probably would normally associate with. But I had a great bunch, and we're all still pretty tight, I think.
How long were you on it for?
I did the very first one back when it was 6 weeks, and I did the full 6 weeks. So,
nice.
Yeah. It was.
Did you lose a lot of weight?
I lost 13 kilos.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first 10 in about 2 weeks, and then my body sort of got used to it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was wild.
Do you have to sign like medical waivers and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, their duty of care is huge because there are animals there. I mean, you're so well protected, but animals like snakes and stuff can get into camp, and there are some pretty bad bitch snakes in Africa.
You're in South Africa?
In South Africa, yeah. And because I was the first the Australian season as well, I think everyone was still sort of finding their footing and finding their ground from us through to the producers. But yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting.
Well, especially season 1 was very popular, and I'm sure that would have helped. Also on that, because you've done so many different things, and something like that is a massive show. It's probably the biggest show, or one of them.
Well, it was on 6 nights a week. It was the first season, so it was that kind of water cooler show at the time. Everyone, even if you weren't watching it, everyone kind of knew that Marsha Brady was camping in the African jungle with Barry Hall. So I had obviously been doing a lot of TV and stuff to get into it, but when I landed back in Sydney Airport, I was like, oh, there's photographers, and people are asking me to call their daughter and tell, because you were their favorite and they're heartbroken that you were knocked out. And it was just I was 24, so it was a massive gear shift in my life. And so I kind of judge a lot of things in my life, like things that happened is kind of like pre I'm a Celebrity or post I'm a Celebrity.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So did you find from a fame perspective it blew you up?
Massively, because it's reality TV. So people come up to me and still and go, I feel like I know you. And I'm like, you absolutely do. You do. Like you and also on that show, it really brings out the worst side of you too. So you've seen every part of me. So it was incredibly helpful. And I'm very grateful for the experience. I mean, who gets to live outside in Africa for 6 weeks?
Yeah, that's crazy. You're very humble. How did you deal?
A lot of people would not say that. But
I think you are. How do you deal with that? Because you're very young. You've come off this massive show. How do you mentally deal with it? Are people stopping you all the time? Do you get a bit anxious? Does it change you?
I mean, I have mad anxiety as it is.
I'm very surprised to hear that. I heard you talk about that, but you don't come across that way, especially on stage as well.
Well medicated. I also, because I was in my 20s and I'm a young 20-year-old gay man still trying to live, like the, typical party life. That was a weird adjustment, and I think a weird adjustment for my friends who've been amazing and so supportive. But look, I definitely made a lot of, mistakes and stumbles, and you also suddenly, when you get this big ego rush, you also think you know everything, and I certainly do not.
So I'm very curious to hear about that. So was it like a hot head and then you're making mistakes? Like, was there a turning point? Like,
I was saying yes to everything. I was going on shows, like, I was flying everywhere. I was back and forth to LA a lot because we were trying to, then capitalize on that and maybe turn that into some American traction. And then landing back and going straight onto a panel show and just not giving my best and not being, it was, but it was just a lot to manage, I guess.
But I feel like that would have been very good for you, especially at that age, to kind of like figure it out, how you're going to balance your time, what you're going to say yes to. Has that like changed that relationship? Because I feel like you've got a better balance now.
Yeah, it was a baptism by fire for sure. Do I have a better balance now? I just love working. I love it so much. So I don't think I'm ever going to be that person that keeps saying no, no, no. But now I've been in radio almost 5 years, which blows my mind. And I have a Monday to Friday job. That's very strange for someone who has been self-employed his entire career.
Yes, it's weird to kind of like go back full circle. At least it's in the creative space. I used to be an accountant, so when I hear 9 to 5, I'm like triggered. No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do 9 to 5. I do 2 hours a day. But yeah, it's weird having bosses. They're great, but it is weird having people to be, accountable to. And also my co-hosts. I need to show up each day and be the best for them as I expect from them, and they expect that from me. So it really is a team effort, and stand-up comedy is not.
Yeah.
It's a solo sport.
So how does that work? I did improv, and, I thought I was the funniest person in the world. I just wanted to be the best. I had such a big ego in level 1 improv class. How embarrassing. And I think no one said anything, but I picked up pretty quickly that I would sabotage the scene trying to be the funniest person. And I realized eventually that, I can be funny by not being funny and allowing my co-hosts to be funnier and set them up. Was 100%. It easy or hard or natural for you?
I think I've got a very defined role in radio, and I came into what we would call like a heritage show, I guess. So had been running for a long time. It's also very hard coming in and replacing someone.
I know.
I was replacing Marty Sheargold, who I love, but you can imagine long-time listeners of the show that's a real gear change into me, and it wasn't pretty to begin with. I also started in stage 4 lockdown with the 9 p.m. curfew, so I left. It was hard not to doom scroll on my phone and see the things that people were saying about me. And there were about 2 months of that leading up to my first day on air.
You mean as in the media had already spoken about you in that 2 weeks, so you had like time?
The media had it actually leaked, which is great. Still don't know how it leaked. But in these big companies, it's very hard. So it leaked, and then it was announced officially that it was me. The one radio show that I did listen to as well. And I was so honoured to be joining. But then, I had 2 months of people letting me know that I'm going to ruin the show. And thankfully I didn't. And the show's it's just a different show now. And in that time as well, I started with Kate Ritchie. I now work with Ricky Lee, which is, a gay man's dream. I get to work with a pop star every day and a really fabulous pop star as well. Tim Blackwell, he's 1/3 of the show, but he's also the panel op. He's considered the best at his job, in the world. So I'm pretty lucky.
Good for you. And also I want to go back to that because this is something I've been thinking about for a while. We won't talk about COVID whatsoever. I won't trigger the entire,
no,
especially
so
Melbourne. How do you deal with that? Because you're not Marty. and you've come in, you've never done radio before. There's a lot of, angry people for their own reasons. Do you feel you have to be someone else? Does it make you like...
I partly, I mean, there was a lot of kill yourself that I don't understand, but
Who is that person?
I know. I get it all the time. It's something about me. I don't know, but maybe it's an ex with a burner account. But I also understood because I get it when you've got a favorite show and someone's leaving. So I got that. I spoke to Marty. He was wonderful. We've always had a great relationship. He gave me some great advice. And then I didn't have the opportunity to go out with mates and pop a bottle and celebrate. I was allowed out for my, government mandated walk and then it was into the show. So, but in a way, maybe because it was such a hard way to begin, perhaps it was the best way.
Yeah, we would, hopefully for the next person they don't have to go through lockdowns. But
I know, right? But I've replaced twice, so I had been through that before because when Miff Warhurst and I took over the job at Eurovision, we were replacing Sam Pang and Julia Zamiro, who we love too.
Yeah,
we love them, and people thought we took their jobs, and of course people constantly compare, and you can't. What I've realised is you just can't compare yourself to other performers. I say that, I do it all the time, but you just have to bring what you can bring.
That's really good, and I want to dive into this because I feel like, you started out, was it 16?
16 was my first stand-up gig, yeah.
And then your third gig is like in front of 2,000 people, and I believe your parents, sorry that I'm telling your story, but I'll get to the point.
No, it's fine.
Your parents, had, because you're under 18, if you're going to all the pubs, so your parents have to go with you.
Yeah, how rock and roll. Your parents are signing you into the pub so you can do your little 16-year-old stand-up routine.
Well, it's also funny. I don't know if you've met him, Andrew Hamilton. He's a Sydney comedian.
Yeah, I think we've gigged together, yeah.
He had a very different experience because he came out of jail. His parents had to go, he had to sign in with his parents as like a 30 or 40-year-old guy. Yeah, so they're hilarious. But anyway, I feel like your voice has been, you kind of figured out your voice very quickly.
Well, do you know something really weird, which I never really have, because I've always wanted people to think I'm a stand-up. When I started stand-up, I actually was a character. My first few gigs, I did a character. His name was Glenn. So I did this in grade 12 for my final drama. I don't know, piece, and ended up doing really well and winning some, high school statewide award. And his name was Glenn Suave, and he was a flight attendant hell bent on taking over the world.
That's a good idea,
right? I mean, I think they all are. And so I did that for my first kind of couple of gigs because I was like, oh, this worked well in school, and then I realised that Glenn Suave wasn't that different to Joel Creasey. So it was an easy transition. And yeah, I mean, I grew up loving Joan Rivers and Kathy Griffin and all the great ladies of stand-up. So they do autobiographical stand-up and so do I as a result. I couldn't tell a joke to save my life.
It's very interesting because, spoken to so many comedians and they tried to be this, and I'm sure you emulated them. But
I would love to be an observational comic. I love watching observational comics where you go, oh, that happens to me. I can't do that.
Yeah, well, but that's, I'm getting to, this is why I think you've been, one of the main reasons you've been able to thrive is that you've been you've been authentic.
Thank you.
And a lot of comedians that I've seen, there's a struggle of authenticity in their voice and they try different things, which is really important.
Yeah.
But when you're not necessarily yourself, it's harder. And it seems like you kind of got that very early and you've just been you. Has that been a...
Yeah, you find your lane. And I like to stick to my lane, and I like to think my lane is a bit more of a freeway. Like I can move into music theatre or move into the documentary space. But I am authentically me, and I often get criticised for putting on this voice. Like as if I want to live with this voice, as if my fiance wants to. Yeah, thank you. People, I get accused of, and I know the other comics, queer comics have this same issue. All he ever talks about is gay stuff. It's like, well, we wouldn't accuse a straight male comic talking about his wife for being too hetero.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
You deal with a lot of that, but we have quite a lovely little community of queer comics. So it's fun. And there's so many of us now. It's like we're taking over. We're very good.
Told you to kill yourself. And
Yeah.
be like, look at the gang. We're coming.
I know. And also messages like that only just inspire me to keep going, because Petty should be my middle name. I often say this, it's a joke, but I often joke to people that the only thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is the opportunity for revenge. Now, it doesn't have to be someone that did something to me the day before. It could be someone that, told me they didn't like my shoes in grade 6. That is enough to get me up and about and going.
Do you transmute it into this like creative like fire, or is it, I'm going to get back at you?
Yeah. How can I? I'm going to sell even more tickets today just to spite you.
Oh, that's great. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, thank you. You made me so much money.
Yeah, because I find it very stressful. This time of the year I find quite stressful because there are so many comics now and so many brilliant comics.
Yep.
And also I'm doing my 15th show this year, so I understand that people have come to see me, but I do provide a whole new show each year, and I'm doing something quite drastic at the end of the show this year. But it's... What was the point I was trying to make?
The trolls.
Yeah, you kind of
Do you ever interact?
deal with them? Yeah.
No, I
I'm
think
told not to, but I do.
But there's different. I feel like you're doing it like for comedic, like you're getting some gold, or you're doing it because they're like an arsehole and you're trying to...
Well, I do this thing. I've done this thing not every year. I bring it back and forth. I don't know if you're a big Mean Girls, the movie fan, but they have the burn book in Mean Girls, and I read out nasty tweets I've gotten and my responses. But this year,
that's great. Yeah,
thanks. The burn book. It was a diary that my friend Claire contacted and decorated for me. She's falling apart. This year, I'm doing because I just feel like there's so much hate in the world at the moment.
Yep.
I'm doing a version of the burn book, but it's more like a soothing, like aloe vera book for me. And I'm going to read out. I don't want to be too braggadocious. I've got a 5-star review on Airtasker, so I'm going to be reading out all my. I'm going to read out all my lovely Airtasker reviews.
Oh, that is so good. I will come back to your shows, and also for people interesting there for listening, they're in the episode notes, so people buy them now.
Yes, come along.
How do you? So going back to the radio and also Eurovision and obviously people like that. Have there been points where you've got all this negative feedback and you like don't know what to do? Like, do you have like other?
Oh, for sure. There's days I cannot lift my head off the pillow because it just gets to you, and I could sometimes get 1,000, hate messages, and it won't.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I get a lot, and because I get that's the thing. I get it. Comedy is subjective. If you see me on TV and you don't find me funny, you are allowed to. You are 100%. There's people I don't find funny, but I also understand that other people do. So,
can I stop you there? I've never, I've watched a lot of stand up and a lot of comedy. I don't feel the need to message the person.
No, that's the point. You don't need to let me know. Don't let me know.
Like, what type of person?
Yeah.
It actually blows my mind. Like,
yeah.
One of my friends, Darren Levy, Funny Uber Rides, people check it out. I think he's got 2 million followers on TikTok, close to 2 million on YouTube.
Show him.
And he gets like thousands of like love. But then there's like that odd man, and we read some of the tweets. A lot of them were just confessing their love for him. And I was like, why are you writing these things? Like he gets...
I know. Well, that's the thing. I could get 1,000, but then there's one that might just get me, and that'll be it. That's my day over. But I won't be telling. I won't be saying what my triggers are, not to inspire people. But I also get a lot of because I went on antidepressants maybe 2 years ago. I'm very open talking about it, and let me just say, compliments to the chef. But I put on 30 kilos in 2 months.
Okay, explain that to me.
I was fully binge eating. It made me so hungry, this medication.
I thought it was like maybe inflammation or something.
Well, maybe, but gosh, people love to let you know when you've put on weight, as if I don't have scales and a mirror at home. I am well aware. I am a 34-year-old gay man who injects so much stuff into his face to make himself look younger. I am aware when I put on a gram.
That's crazy. So, because you were QC Men, what's it called?
Oh, I did a men's health cover.
Yes.
Yeah, I did, which was so hard.
Because I think you were absolutely ripped and shredded, or you have to be.
I looked like that for the 30 minutes we took the photo.
What are they like? Just like suck your gut in?
Yeah, I had it was actually really good. It was really good for me, and it was really, I think I was the first openly gay man to be on a Men's Health cover worldwide, openly being the key word. And it was actually a really healthy experience for me. They did it in a very healthy way. Towards the end, of course, it's when you're really trying to cut down, that's maybe not so healthy. But what was interesting, the morning that I did the shoot, because I was off grog, off everything, I was given half a glass of red wine and a Mars bar. Because when you're so apparently depleted, it like goes straight to all your muscles but for like an hour. So then you have to get the shot. But like I'd had half a glass of red, bearing in mind I'm not eating or drinking for months. And I was like, woo! But I probably needed the confidence to be doing that and getting my clothes off. And I do not look like that anymore. I describe myself as a paperclip wearing skin.
That's correct. I went on a date. This is well before I met my wife, or at least she thinks that.
It was gorgeous, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Everyone said, I had to put in my wedding speech, the amount of times, you said people go up to you and say they've noticed you've gained weight.
Yeah.
Every time I meet someone, they don't just say she's gorgeous, I appreciate it. Yeah. They go, wow, she's so much better looking than you. I get and I agree. But I don't need to hear it. Like,
you don't need to hear it. I am well aware. My fiance is
a model.
That's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
And so like when we go out, I'm like, are they looking at me? No, they're looking at Jack. Yeah, fair enough. They're looking at Jack. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, he is a good looking guy.
He is, and he's so. Do you know what? He's worked his ass off in the modelling world, and I have a whole new, like back in the day, I would have made jokes about models. I've seen actually how hard they work.
Have you seen Bruno? He's like, when he pretends to be the model, I put my left foot forward, I put my right foot forward.
I love that movie. Yeah. It's actually, I think it's Ricky Lee, my co-host's favourite film.
Oh.
And yeah, but he's also the nicest person in the world. I'm like, how do you get to be that good looking and that nice?
Yeah. Severe trauma, it has to be.
So annoying. It's so annoying. You can't have it all. Let me have something.
I'm glad that you found him.
Yeah, me too. Holding him hostage.
He hasn't left the house in months.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't drink alcohol, but I hadn't, went on a date with a girl and she organised to go to a bar and I felt too awkward to say, actually, I'm not drinking.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Skill. As in, I used to go clubbing. People are always surprised. I went out a lot. I was going clubbing 3 times a week, getting absolutely destroyed.
Same.
And then
I can't anymore. It kills me.
Well, we're similar age. I just can't do it.
No. Oh no. No way. But what's your tactic now if you're out at a bar? Because I'm particularly at the moment when I'm touring, when I'm in a show, I don't drink.
Yep.
Because for someone that speaks for a living, I actually have a really weak voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe I just don't look after it well enough.
Yep.
I am trying. I'm going to a throat physio. Did you know there's such thing?
What do they do? They
kind of like massage and they get into your jaw with a glove and
is that like TMJ or something?
TMJ, so you get TMJ. Yeah. Oh my God, how good is that?
Well, I cry after them because they're so painful, especially if they go really far down the throat.
God, the harder the better.
I'm tearing. I struggle.
Yeah, and you're looking up at them too.
And I can't even. I'm like, it's not the face that anyone should see. And I forgot how we got into this, but I had beer for. Oh, you were.
Give me some advice. Give me some pointers.
I feel like when you go out with like cool and interesting people, I don't. My friends drink because they're not fun and exciting. We also don't go out.
My friends are drag queens, so they drink a lot.
But I also feel like that's way more fun.
Oh my God, they're the best.
Yeah, so my friends are just like, they're boring. So that helps. So we don't go out that much, but if the music's good, that would help. But I can't. It's so hard when people are so drunk and they're like, Michael, I love you, mate. And it's just like those conversations. Yeah. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Don't talk to me.
And also people do the whole, you can have one. You can have one. It's very hard. People aren't very forgiving, I find. They're like, you can have one. You can have one. And you're like, well, that defeats the purpose.
I agree. And probably topic for another time. When and I was never an alcoholic or anything, but when I said I'm stopped drinking, people get so offended, especially in your early 20s.
Yeah, and because it's especially in Australia.
Yeah, they're like, what the fuck? Like,
what's wrong with you?
And then they're like, but what's wrong with me if you're not drinking? I'm like, I just don't want to drink today. But it's my birthday and people get so offended. So I'm just good at, like, it literally helped me set boundaries was
just doing
Totally.
that.
And I think when you're like on tour and I'm working other jobs,
Yeah.
I just need that focus and that clarity. I literally cannot waste a day.
It's interesting because, like, when I went on that date with that girl and I had the beer because she organised a bar and there was nothing else.
And the beer.
I had the beer. I had half the beer. This is a
You're like,
week-
woo!
No, I almost was throwing up because when you don't have like wheat, I was also cutting out other stuff. I thought like I was going to vomit or needed to go to the toilet. I was like, what am I going to do? I'm on this date.
Yeah.
And it was hard.
I don't mind a non-alcoholic beer. I'm not even a massive beer drinker, but
I never liked beer.
Oh, really?
And then I had this beer and I'm like, I'm going to be here for 20 minutes. This is an absolute buzz.
See, I love wine. Like I know, you know, some people just drink to drink.
Yeah.
I love wine. I collect like champagne. Like when I say that, I mean I've got a couple of nice bottles with like,
cool.
like just what would you call it? Like labels that don't. Oh God, I'm being really dumb right now. What's the word? Anyway, I collect lovely like vintage champagnes to never be touched. I just love the
Special
display
occasion,
of them
would
at
you open
home.
or-
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'd open one on like, or if I get a job, that's normally like a
good
pop
for
the
you.
bottle
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, that's the thing that kills me when I'm like doing these like long months off.
Yeah.
I really enjoy wine. I love the whole process of it.
You've got great hobbies, you know, aeroplanes, you know, the whole
Wine.
wine. You know,
Yeah.
and when you were doing the men's health thing, and I don't know how long you were doing it, like getting into like top shape for, was it like 4 months or something?
Yeah,
like that?
it was 3 months,
Oh, 3
but then we kept pushing out the shoot date so I could get a couple more weeks under my belt.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was training twice a day and then after work going and doing laps.
And what type of clarity? Because I assume you're not drinking and you're eating better. Did you have were you like a superhero and you're like,
I could have read
an 6?
Yep.
Oh,
I could have done all of that. I could have read an auto cue from 3 suburbs away. I could have landed an A380. Like I felt fantastic. I felt so good.
Would you ever go back to that?
Well, then,
Like
then I
more
put it
of a
all back on. No, I'm trying to be healthy at the moment, but would I do that again? No.
And you mentioned earlier taking your shirt off. So was that quite an empowering moment when you took your shirt off?
Nah. It was terrifying. Yeah, it was terrifying. And my manager was there, and she and I, like, that's not the relationship we have. It was just all a bit like weird as I'm getting oiled up in front of like my team. Yeah.
Get the traps, and they're like, I'll do the thighs.
Yeah, it was all very bizarre. But can I tell you, the meal after was fantastic.
Was it just like eating everything?
Eating everything, although my stomach had shrunk so much I couldn't. But we went out for lunch, then I went and did the radio show, and then I went out for dinner as well.
Wow. Going back to all the amazing things you do, has the relationship with ambition changed?
Oh, I reckon in my 20s I was so ambitious that I think I probably burnt a few bridges and pissed a few people off.
Yeah.
The ambition is still there. It's just a bit more focused now. I have I know what I want. Ooh. And that's the point I think I was trying to make earlier. I remember now. I think a lot of not a lot of comics, because they're also brilliant, but I think a few comics sort of just sit back and don't realize that it's show business. I've always said the bigger word is business, and you really do have to focus on the business side of things,
which is hard for a lot of creatives.
Yeah, and I totally get that. And you also can't count on your manager to do everything. You do have to, like, your relationship with your manager it's a business relationship, and I love my manager. We and
the same as Danny Minogue.
Yeah. We've got So Danny is a friend of mine.
I'm very jealous,
and she is the nicest person ever.
That's good to hear.
So a night out with the two of them is just.
Oh, okay. Stop it! I can't hear this.
Yeah, I'll let her know.
Amazing. I've heard that you've got top management, which is great as well.
Well, I'm not with a comedy manager.
Yeah.
Because I really. Like, I can kind of do all that myself.
Nice.
And then I tour with a touring agency who'd work in partnership with my manager. But no, my management take care of more TV singers type people, which is kind of where you do need the assistance, I think, getting in for those auditions and those screen tests and stuff.
I've got so many questions. And how do you deal with the rejection side from all of that?
Do you know what? I think I have a pretty good gut, and not good gut health, but a good gut. And I think I kind of, most of the time, I can tell when I come out of the test if I've gotten it or not.
Yep.
So I can put myself at ease there. Yeah, I don't think there's been one where I'm like, what? How did that happen?
And are you good if they, like, you just know if you haven't got it so it doesn't bother you?
Yeah. And then some I go in to test for that I know that the network probably, I'm not going to be the network's choice. I might be the production company's choice, but not the network's choice.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And that kind of, in a way, puts you at ease as well.
Oh, so you seem to have the healthiest relationship with rejection that I've heard in a very long time.
Well, I've had a lot of it. I've been dumped twice, so yeah,
that always helps.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I really need to thank my exes because they really helped cut my teeth.
And you said from like you've got more clarity of what you kind of choose. Do you have like it doesn't need to be stated, but do you have a why, or this needs to be in alignment with this side of the vision? Like, do you have it written down, or you just know if it's in alignment with
I have nothing written down. Do you know I've never written any of my stand-up down?
Yeah, it blows my mind, which is crazy.
I describe it as, well, here's another thing. I actually think every single human on planet Earth can do stand-up comedy. I think the key to a good stand-up comic is that they can keep generating the comedy.
Yes.
But everybody, how I describe it is, you know when something hilarious happens to you during the day and then you have dinner with your mates that night and you go, oh, you'll never believe what happened to me today. That's stand-up comedy.
Yeah, that's how I would do it. I have like 40 pages of Microsoft Word. I'm the guy that carries my phone. I'm like, oh, no, I need to write this down.
Oh, I'm in that stage at the moment, just of like ideas, but it's just notes in my phone. And I'm like, eggplant paperclip, what did that mean at 3 a.m. when I woke up? But no, they're all just, I think of my shows as a dinner party at my place and I'm the only one talking. So essentially a dinner party at my place.
Oh, that's amazing. So is your like vision more focused now, like back from the ambition side? Like you just do things that fit in, like how do you
My manager and I talk so much. We know we don't have like a 5-year plan laid out, but we know where we want to get to and what we want to do. I've never been in a contract like this where I'm at a network, but I'm loving radio. It is so much fun, and Tim and Ricky just make it a joy each day. Nice. As do our off-air team. Nova's a real family, which is lovely. So, yeah, that's a blast, and I'm very lucky to have that job and for it to come along when it did. In lockdown, when my diary went from packed to wiped clean.
Yeah, that would be hard.
But yeah, I certainly have things that I still want to do and haven't tried and want to achieve.
That's so cool. And how do you deal with like you hinted at this before, the non-linear aspect? Not every year is going to be as big as the next year. Not every year is going to be, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And you would have, you're human. You would have been chasing the next big thing and the next big thing.
You're constantly chasing that dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I don't think, until the year's done, I guess you don't know. You honestly don't know. I've had calls at the last minute for huge gigs. Often you can't do them because you're already locked into something else. But things can pop up at the strangest times. You get the weirdest calls, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm off to South Africa in 2 weeks."
Oh, that's so exciting.
So that is very exciting and fun. But a lot of the time, you have to say no because you've already got other gigs booked in.
And does it worry you? Because, at one stage you might have nothing, but then as you said, in 2 weeks you could be completely full. Or is that
terrifies me? It's absolutely part of my anxiety. I want to keep doing this forever.
Yeah.
I have no other skills.
I think you've got a lot of skills based on everything that you...
But outside of this industry, I have zero other skills. I was actually at uni studying political science and foreign affairs, but I dropped out. Majoring in American politics, but I love watching it.
Be a commentator.
Yeah, I'd love to be like a reporter that goes into those really hectic scenarios. That would be the other interest of mine if I couldn't keep doing what I'm doing.
Cool.
But yeah, all I watch is the news around the clock. I'm obsessed.
Maybe I've given up on the news. That fries me.
Well, my therapist said I need to stop because it is quite depressing.
Yeah, because they don't ever show. I can go on a big rant. I won't. But with the news, they're only going to show you fear mongering, and I hate it.
100%.
And I'm not having a go at you whatsoever.
No, not at all.
But for me, when I stopped, I reached enlightenment once I stopped watching the news, as you can obviously tell.
Watch Real Housewives instead. It's more dramatic.
Yeah. Exactly. And before we go, I want to talk about your comedy festival shows. You're touring all around, and as I said, that all the places you're touring is all around Australia, I believe.
Yeah.
15th solo show, which is crazy, especially at your age, but also 15. Very few people have done that. How have you done it? What has been like your key to just keep on getting back up?
I'm homework at the last minute sort of person, so I know exactly what the show looks like. I know the storyline of the show.
Yep.
Not that I'm a big one for like a huge, big bit of pathos. I'm not smart enough for that. I just, I always say to my crowd, you're not going to learn anything. If anything, you'll leave dumber, but gosh, you'll have a good time. There's other comics that are far smarter than me that can do that. So yeah, I know the show. I'm out doing like the clubs at the moment, just trying material. I like to know if I've banked like 40 minutes, then 20 minutes is fine to kind of do on an opening night. I trust myself this far into the game, but. Yeah, it's still a risk. Every year you go, is this the year I muck it up? But my show's called Thanks for Being Here, because it was like thanks for coming to, for 15 years.
shows, crazy.
But as someone pointed out, it sounds like I'm passing away.
Maybe get more sales that way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Maybe it's like a goodbye tour. Do it John Farnham.
Amazing. And then just keep on doing that every year.
Work for him.
So what's involved, without giving the whole premise because people around Australia can see it, what's the main premise? Is it like different bits or...
Well, it's definitely because it's, as I said, it's all stories about my life. And 2024 was quite a roller coaster. But I got engaged. And so that's sort of like part of the storyline off the back of some crazy stuff happening to me. And then at the end, I'm doing something. I'll tell you off air what I'm doing. I'm in rehearsals for.
Oh, you're getting me first.
I'm terrified, by the way.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Congratulations. And
well, maybe say that after the show, after you see the show.
And did you ever think you would do so many?
When I did my first one, I can still remember being on my hands and knees and on like Little Collins Street and Little Burke, chalking my name and arrows to where my venue was. It wasn't a festival managed venue. It was it was a little cocktail bar where I was performing upstairs. Most of my audience were backpackers that a lot of them had no idea what I was saying. I speak very fast as well.
Yep.
But it just I was 18 or 19, and from there I've done one every year since.
Congratulations to you. And it's anything else you want to talk about? I think that's so cool that you've been able to do 15 shows and at such a high level. You've had so many sold out shows along the way. I think there was even like one period where it's probably happened a few times, but I just remember one year sold out like every single show, and that's very rare. So yeah,
it is an amazing feeling. And the thing I always remind myself is that not only have people bought a ticket to the show, which is always already so flattering, but they've perhaps paid for babysitters, Ubers, restaurants, parking. So every show I try and put in all I've got.
That is very nice. A lot of people just see it as a gig, and I believe you. And even to just mention the Uber, the babysitter, all of that, that's like very refreshing to hear from someone that will...
Well, take Melbourne Comedy Festival, for example. It goes for 4 weeks, and, that's when Melbourne starts to really turn weather-wise. So, on your third week on a shitty Wednesday, and you're like, oh, God, I've got to get out of the house and tell that every year I have one story in the show that I hate, and I always see if my fiance can pick it.
Oh, really?
It's weirdly always the story that the crowd like the most.
It's always, yeah.
But there's just one, and I've put it in there for a reason. I know it works, but I'm like, oh God, I'm telling this one again. That's how I amp myself up. I'm like, bitch, get out of the house.
Amazing. What we're going to do to wrap up the podcast is to do a rapid fire segment.
I love rapid fire.
I'm just going to do 3 quick questions.
Okay.
What are you most proud of?
Working with Joan Rivers.
Oh, shit. I had a whole thing on that. We'll have to do a part 2, but let me just quickly...
I can tell you stories about her all day.
What is the one thing that she taught you?
She taught me, sounds like the dumbest advice ever, but it makes sense. Just be funny. Yeah. Just be funny and everything will be fine. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but when awful things have happened to me, I've heard her voice and it has worked.
Amazing. And you had a pretty good relationship. You toured with her as well, so that's really
the most incredible human I've ever met.
That's so nice to hear. Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different on you, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
what have you got to lose? Like, I'm a very much like you only live once type person, which also can lead you down some dangerous paths. But give it a crack. I respect someone for giving it a go more than just sitting back and not doing anything.
Agreed. Great advice. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
My favorite designer, so I could have name dropped them and gotten some free shit.
Oh,
but I wouldn't even know how to answer that.
my wife Kaylee, she loves that stuff.
I love it. I don't care. I love it. It's fun. It's interesting. It's another form of art.
Agreed.
I'm really trying to sell that.
Amazing. Any question, or you happy there?
No. This is fun.
Thank you.
I'll come back and give you my Joan Rivers monologue that I normally give people at about 2 a.m. at one of my house parties. And I corner them.
Oh, that's so great. And before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
I think I'm at Joel Creasey on all platforms. I think.
They will all be in the episode notes so people can check them out as well.
And livenation.com.au for my tour. Perth and Brisbane I think are selling out today. So we'll be adding more.
Cool.
But yeah, come along.
Good for you. And radio, how can people check you out as well?
4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Nova, Monday to Friday. I work hard. I do 2 hours of talking, and with songs and ads, that's about 48 minutes of talking.
I love it. Thank you so much. You're empowering, you're uplifting, you're hilarious, and this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
This was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I love how Joel embraces his authenticity and is true to himself and his passions. Often in life, and especially in this industry, we can at times feel we have to emulate or be someone else or an ideal. Joel throughout his career has stuck to what makes him happy and what brings him joy. He knows what he's about and is not afraid to stick to his guns despite potential backlash or public scrutiny. I love this because despite the negativity Joel has faced, he's refused to give in or be defeated by this and has carved a brilliant and inspiring career. It is also so great that he's able to look back at challenges and trolls and simply laugh at them. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. Bernard Baruch. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.